I am Natalie Riley, and I'm very honored to serve as your director of Missouri Girls State this year. Missouri Girls State is sponsored by the American Legion Auxiliary. You will hear us routinely refer to it as the ALA. Many of the staff members that you work with this week are members of the ALA. Ladies, this will be a week to change a lifetime. You will hear this repeatedly throughout. You will also hear that you will get out of Missouri Girls State what you put into it. Do not be afraid to try, volunteer, or run for a position. Get engaged early. If you do not, you will look up and find that the week has passed you by. Remember that the counselors and staff are here for you and wish to make your week a wonderful learning experience. So please ask questions. I also want to mention that this is a groundbreaking session at Missouri Girls State. This is the largest session that we have ever held. It is also the first time Missouri Girls State or any Girls State program in the nation has had an international experience of this nature. Missouri Girls State has partnered with former Governor Bob Holden and the U.S. Midwest China Association in a U.S.-China Youth Leadership Exchange Program. Missouri Girls State has 21 cities, and we have one Chinese delegate assigned to each of those cities. Our friends from China arrived yesterday, and I encourage you to get to know them, teach them about our culture, and also learn from them about their Chinese culture. This day and age, we are in an international setting, and we hope each of you take away a memorable learning experience while you're here at Missouri Girls State. Now, before I start diving into the orientation assembly and the agenda items that I need to cover, I would like to make a formal introduction to you. This week, you will be able to hear from many public servants and guest speakers, but today, it's a tremendous honor for me to be able to introduce to you your United States Senator, Roy Blunt. Building on a background as a public servant, university president, and teacher, United States Senator Roy Blunt was elected by the people of Missouri to the United States Senate in 2010. Before serving in Congress, he was a history teacher, a county official, and in 1984 became the first Republican ever elected as Missouri Secretary of State in more than 50 years. Senator Blunt has also served 4 years as the president of his alma mater, Southwest Baptist University in Bolivar, Missouri. The senator is also able to join us today with his wife, Abigail Blunt. Please give a warm round of applause for your United States Senator, Roy Blunt.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all. Sit back down. I'm the assembly, getting people in, the very first thing for the biggest girls' state ever, took just enough time that half my time is gone. So I'm going to be leaving at 2 o'clock to go to something in St. Louis, but I am glad to be here with you. I'm glad to be here with Abby. You know, I'm one of the 40% of the men in America whose wives make more money than they do, so thank goodness for that. And before you know it, it'll be like 60% of all the men in America's wives make more money than they do, because more women are going to college than men. Women are getting better prepared than men. The governor at Girls State will not be the last governor of Missouri that's a woman. That'll happen soon. And there'll be a woman president soon, just like all these other things that just a few years ago I think, well, when will that happen? And it's beginning to happen. So I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to say a few things, but then we're pretty quickly going to go to however many questions you all can ask while I'm here. And I want to thank the American Legion Auxiliary for doing this. Oh, Sarah Grapp, Sarah's over there, works for me in our Columbia office. Actually, most of the people on my staff are women. And some of you will be maybe either hiring people as the United States Senator or working in that. And maybe if I stay around long enough and you're quick enough, maybe you'll be working for me one of these days. And I'd like that. You know, this is a great, again, the American Legion Auxiliary has done this since 1940, and nobody does it better than the American Legion Auxiliary in our state. It's a big deal that we have people, our friends from China here, or by the end of the week, they'll all be our friends from China. Today, they're people you're meeting from China, but Governor Holden has been very involved since he was governor. My son Matt was governor after Governor Holden was governor, and he went to Boise State. And in fact, both of my older boys went to Boise State, and I've got a littler boy now that may wind up in Boise State one of these days too. But Governor Holden's done a great job working with China and what we could do to bring ourselves closer to that big and growing and economically powerful country. And 21 people here, first time ever. The very first time ever this thing was ever tried was just a few days ago when 21 or so young men from China came to be part of not just a Boise State anywhere, but Missouri Boise State. You know, our state, with the leadership of Girls State and Boise State, has really been out front in lots of things. Now, you know, Abby is always talking about how I figured out how to make everything all about Missouri, but there are a lot of things that are all about Missouri. More than any other state in the country, I think Missouri reflects the country. You know, St. Louis is a great city that's very different than Kansas City. Sometimes I say it's the sort of the furthest west eastern city, and Kansas City is the furthest east western big city. It's, in my mind, sometimes I think more like Denver than it is St. Louis, but we get to be part of all of that. And northern Missouri is unique. Where we live in Springfield is a little more like northwest Arkansas or Oklahoma than it might be some of the rest of the state. The Boot Hill's very Delta South. You know, we get to live not in the exact geographic center of the country, but we really do, more than any other Americans, get to live in a place where the country comes together. You don't have to travel very far in our state to get a sense of what the whole country is all about. I think we're looking at great opportunities down the road. We're competitive. We need to be even more competitive. How we compete with other people, how we trade with other people. Anytime the United States enters into a trade agreement, if it's a fair trade agreement, we win. At the end of that agreement, no matter what the critics thought going into it, 5 or 10 years down the road, it's very clear that actually more people in other countries want what we do than we want what they do, but we benefit from what they do. So whether it's trade or energy, more American energy, if there was ever a simpler economic formula than more American energy equals more American jobs, I don't know what it is. And we're on the verge of maybe the biggest economic driver since World War II, since the World War II housing boom, as we look at what happens with oil shale and gas shale and energy of all kinds, renewables, solar, wind, all of that. But we actually now have more traditional energy than we thought we ever had before, and that gives us a lot of competitive advantages. But our biggest advantage is being who we are. I gave a speech the other day to a big trade group, and I said, you know, what happens when we enter into trade agreements is that we spread to the rest of the world what happens if you have to follow the law. You know, why do people not want to invest in a lot of other countries? Because they don't know what's going to happen if something doesn't go exactly like you hope it would go. In our country, the rule of law has been a rule that we've been able to spread all around the world. Now, it's not everywhere it needs to be yet, and we'd like more protections for things we develop, or intellectual property and other things, but we always send that signal. Now that we trade, we have trading agreements with almost half of the economy of the whole world, and every time we do that, those economies get strengthened because of the fairness and justice we bring where we go places. And you know, in Washington right now, 2 or 3 topics, if you want to talk about them, we can. We're dealing with how to deal fairly and justly with immigration as an issue. We're talking about how to deal with people's information. You know, the young women here, all of you have grown up with information tools that everybody here older than you didn't grow up with. But all of those information tools, from every time you go on the web, to every time you use your cell phone, to every time you do lots of things, provide lots of information about you that people didn't used to have. And how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that in a way that's fair to everybody? And so we're having this big discussion right now, and we should have it.